When I started this channel, I said two things to myself. First of all, the channel is dedicated to solopreneurs, small, mid-sized businesses that are looking to learn a little bit more about AI and the technologies, figure out what's happening and how they can leverage it for profit in their business while saving time, resources, and energy also. The second thing I said was, as cool as coding apps are, and I do think they're cool, we're not going to do videos on coding apps. And then Bolt came along. So today we're doing a video on coding apps, and I really do think it's going to help your business. In a couple minutes, we're going to dive in and play with Bolt a little bit. I just wanted to give you a very brief overview of the app itself. If you haven't come across any of the AI-based or AI-enhanced or whatever that word is, tools for coding, a couple things to keep in mind. Some of them don't really need any coding, and they're very structured because of that. Sorry, they don't need any coding experience. You sort of have to understand how apps are created, packaged up, and then deployed, whether it's for a mobile device like your iPhone or Android, or it's a web app that goes on a website. So as much as we talk about these cool new coding apps, you don't have to know anything about coding to generate something really cool. Maybe sort of true. Bolt.new, and by the way, it's just at Bolt.new. It's a little bit different in that it puts everything together, packages everything for you, and actually can deploy it for you too. Let's talk about some of the other options that are out there. So recent video we used ChatGPT, and in ChatGPT, you've got a couple options here. You can do some coding. I would recommend with O1 because it does reasoning and it does better at coding things. But you can do some coding in there, and then it spits out the code for you. You can copy that code, and if you know what to do with it, you can use it on your site. There is also Canvas, which we talked about in a recent video, that again, it is still ChatGPT. It's a chat style thing where you put your information in, it spits out the code, it just puts it in a little different format and puts it on the side for you. Speaking of that, there's also Claude, and Claude does a similar type of thing. Going outside of that, there are some newer tools that one's web-based and one goes on your computer. And those are Cursor and VO by Vercel. There's an 18 to 22% chance I pronounce Vercel correctly. If I pronounced it wrong, nice folks over at Vercel, maybe you can change the way you pronounce your name. But the first one being Cursor, and this has had a lot of hype. It's an IDE. So an IDE is a tool that developers used for coding in. And you'll see here, we've got the code in the middle. On the side, we've got the structure to the apps. That'll be important in just a minute in the video. And it generates all of the pieces for the code for your app for you. And then over here, there is a chat option where you can come in here and you can tell it to do different things. When things break in the chat, you can ask for it to fix it for you. You can say, yeah, I like this color, but not that color. And you can make changes, and it makes the changes to your code in the coding window here. Now that that app is installed directly onto your computer. And then we also have like front-end design applications like VO, and Vercel does other things as far as coding with AI assistance also. But on the front end here, you see here, do multiple steps with different things. And I could say, create a cool dark blue contact dust form, and it's going to build the front end for it. It's going to code it for us. Front end meaning how it looks, and it will, using some React here, it generates this contact dust form file and spits it out. And there's our contact dust form. Any of these that we build with this, we can grab that code, but then we have to put it in something and package it up, wrap it up, and generate the actual app to use it. Bolt is a little bit different. So I'm going to go through two examples here of apps or prompts, that I've created for Bolt. And we're going to watch and see what it does. Bear with me. I'll edit out the things that are maybe taking too long, but I want you to see some of the pieces. I'm going to point out some of the differences here, but I just want to go through a couple of prompts here. The first one is, and this is fairly lengthy, but I've created this prompt asking it to create a web app for me that will allow people to fill in some information about their company, and then using OpenAI's API will spit out a marketing strategy blueprint for the individual filling out the form I also ask for their email address so then I can then follow up with them. So I'm just going to take that whole thing that I built there, pop it into Bolt. I'm going to hit enter and Bolt is going to start thinking. Do all AI apps start with certainly? I think they do. And you'll see here it starts generating it. Two, maybe 15. We'll stick with 2 right now. 2 big things that you'll see here. Number 1, it sort of looks like an IDE. Remember we saw the file structure over on Cursor, and then we saw the section where they had the code for each of the apps. So it's going through and it is coding each of these for us. So instead of having one file, then I've got to place it in an IDE and know where my pieces go and how to configure it and do all the other things that live in there, that when you watch some of these videos on YouTube, they make it seem like it's just boom, 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 and it's all done, and it's not. You have to figure it out. You have to keep asking the AI app how to help you with it. It's doing all of that for us. You'll see over here, it's generating all the structure. It created the entire structure for the app. It told us what it did in case you're interested in learning about that and understanding the pieces of what it's doing. And then it tells us down here at the end, the next steps. Like to fully implement the API call, we need to set up the back end for this so that it actually generates the call for us and brings the data back. So it has some pieces in there too. And then also want to call out here. So we're looking at the file structure. We're looking at the code that goes within the apps. And then at the bottom, we're seeing a terminal. What the terminal is doing is, and this is what a lot of the videos don't tell you, you actually have to understand some pieces of using a terminal to start your apps and run things. And if you know things like saying npm start or npm reset restart, those types of things, and you know to go to whichever local host it is you told it to put on your browser to show the app at the time, you're good to go. If you don't know any of that, it's actually running all of that in the background for you. And that's a big deal. And you'll see here, it run npm fund. It was updating the pieces and doing some other things that we don't really need to care about because it did all of it for us. On the preview screen here, instead of having to navigate somewhere else on our browser, on our computer to see some web server running internally, we can see the app itself. Couple things. It did a really nice job on this. You'll see here, it just did the business and marketing goals. We don't have the rest of the pieces, but we can generate those as we go. I didn't ask it to. I put some accordions in there. Not bad. I can ask it to change that. But either way, it started a really nice app for us that we can build out from here. It did mention the API call. It's not implemented in the current version due to security considerations. And you need to add that for server side because it told us I'm going to need to do some things. And it says, yeah, I'm going to do some stuff. I'm going to set up some pieces, and you'll see it's going to add some backend dependencies. I read that on there. I don't know what the backend dependencies are. I just say, can you help me with doing the stuff I need to do to set up the API later? Because it says I'll need to do that. And it does. And it's running through. I know it's creating a bunch of things. One of the things it's creating, and you don't need to know code, but you'll see here, it created this .env file. When I have an API, I need to be able to place that somewhere that's not sitting on the front end, that somebody can look at the code in my app when it's online and grab my API from OpenAPI that I'm paying for the calls for, and then be able to use it for their own stuff. It did all of that. It ran through all those pieces. And then on the back end here, it ran back through and restarted the app. So that's one use case for Bolt. And you'll see there, like I said, it does most of the work in the back end for you, and it does most of the pieces. There are some other things you need to do as you're building that. And I'm going to show you when I'm doing this app real quick, where you can actually deploy the application using Bolt. It's pretty long, but I've worked on it for a whole bunch of time. And mainly what I use it for is for testing these coding apps to see how well they work. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to put it in there. It's a Bible memorization app. The idea being is my kids, they wanted something they can put on their phone, and they would then be able to use it to memorize verses, and we can call out to the Bible translations, different places out there to grab the information. So when they type in the verse they want to memorize, it goes through and lets them play games. It creates different levels. It gives them different points. because I have a 6 and 8-year-old and they're very competitive with each other. It doesn't matter what it is. And so it gives them the ability to do that. I use the prompt mainly to paste these in as we're doing here to see just how well the different applications work. And you'll see here is running through doing the same type of thing. This one may do something a little different because I've called out that it's a mobile app. So we'll see as it builds out all the pieces, writes all the code. You see here, because we're not going to the API yet, it's adding a few verses in there. So I've got that to be able to test with and play with, create the different levels that I told you my kids want to use to compete with. And then it is going to run the commands down here to run the app and do the same thing it did before, which is tell us some of the stuff we need to do as far as grabbing the ESP API and putting that on there to make it actually work for us. And so now we have this app that did the things that we put in the prompt. Let's see if it does anything. 316. I'm just going to pick one that I know we had. Yeah, it did. It brought the verse down here for me, gave me the different methods that I suggested as far as different ways to learn to do the verse. I can then deploy this app. So just having that there, the question should be in your mind, once I've got the app and it's working and I show it on my screen, how does that get out to the rest of the world? And the answer is you deploy the application. And the question is, how do I deploy the application? And that button is way better than if you play with some of the other apps that exist to do that. We will see if I make it there. I have 45,000 out of 150,000 tokens left on this free application. By the way, the paid version of this, I'm not getting anything for it. It's like $9 a month. So if you end up using it, not too bad. But it builds all the pieces needed to then deploy this app out into the real world. So we spent a lot of time going through each of those pieces today. But let's talk about the question of how does this help my business? I'm going to throw one idea out there, and I bet you there's others. So feel free to leave a comment below. But let's say you use free ebooks as a lead gen tool for your business. Very cool. They work. They're sort of 2015, but they're there and they work. What if you could simply and easily and almost free create web apps that don't just provide information to your potential customers, but actually help them go through a process, work through a process, and at the same time, you get lead generation from it. You've built a better relationship, I believe, than just putting out the ebook, which I know a lot of people argue. The ebook shows that I'm an expert in this area. If the person actually reads the ebook, that could be true. Most ebooks don't get read after they skim through them. If you're like me, you download the ebook, you click the summary button on your AI app, you read what it says, and then you're done with it. So I don't know if the person's an expert or not. But some of these apps actually you can build an app if you've got a really good idea in your domain of expertise. You can build an app that actually helps people. And that really puts in a hook that allows folks to then build a relationship with you. And again, you've got the lead generation piece of it. So that's just one idea. Put some comments below if you think of other ways that if it didn't cost you anything to create an app and you didn't have to know how to actually create the app, what you would do for that. And I encourage you, even if you don't put a comment below, think about other ways. If you find this video in any way useful, feel free to smash the subscribe button below, leave a comment, or visit us on our website. Maybe I'll add a web app in there soon too that you can check out.